Hi there, Christopher here, update on Saving Satoshi Chapter 3. Thanks for all the feedback on the last one. There were several issues here with what I showed in my last 11-minute video. Here's the latest version, and hopefully I managed to address everything. So let's go over some of the issues here. So one of the issues was that the coordination system is not really clear. So here in the original story, it says that we're sending this antivirus to some of the other pool operators, so Bittray can't control them anymore. So then we can collaborate with them. However, later in the chapter down here, we're somehow collaborating with them, and then we're splitting up the non-spaces. But it's kind of weird with us being a single miner and those other three people being individual pools. So I changed this so that the other people are not pools, but they're actually individual miners. And then in this step here, we do form a pool. So it's not smart co-op anymore, but it's pool mining versus Bittray. And here is, co-op mining versus Bittray. So we individually go up in an uncoordinated fashion against Bittray, and it doesn't work out. Then same thing with the partial solutions. Thanks for all the feedback and research Andrew and Matthew and others provided. I think we have found something, but let me just start here from the beginning now. So first changes happen on this screen here. Actually, a small thing. Some of these titles here, so it's solo versus Bittray, co versus Bittray, pool versus Bittray. That's updated a little bit. Then in here, it now talks about other miners, no longer pool operators. Then we're in here. This is all changed. I changed nonce to hashes. So instead of showing what nonce the user is at, which we found out is not really a good way to communicate this, we just say the amount of hashes they've generated. So within those hashes, they can reset the nonce 50 million times based on timestamp, based on whatever, but we just count the number. So the number doesn't change, we just say hashes instead of nonce now. That should, it's a little bit, avoids some complexity, I would say. So nothing's changed here, we basically lose. Then we need support. We're waiting a little bit longer for our friends to show up. And the other miners here pop in. Now we're trying to do this again. That's miners, there we go. So now we're in here, we see all of each individually going together against Bittray. Numbers tick up, however, still only one of us finds all the numbers. That's because we check all the same non-space, a little bit unfortunate. And then we lose again. But, there is a bit of a difference here. Bittray doesn't lose by as much because some of these miners do not longer mine for Bittray, but they mine for the good group. So Bittray has lost total hash power. So we're doing better. We're not gaining this little bit anymore. We're gaining a lot more, but it's just not enough. We need to coordinate better. Then in this has changed quite a bit. So you can see the visuals here are different. Let's take a look real quick. Here it's kind of the same thing that you've seen above. And here we did say that, we just split up the nonces through some pattern. But now what we're doing is we're actually forming a pool. And HoloCat insists that it's called the HoloCat pool. So now every user has every avatar has this little tag that says, I'm part of the HoloCat pool. I'm the number 1, number 2, number 3, number 4. Indicating that everyone kind of has a unique ID and there's a way to differentiate between each of us within that pool. And then it talks about that a little bit, just only very loosely. I think this going deeper into this stuff might be a good deep dive session at some point. So now we try again. We have our little tags here. Now it looks pretty good. Each of us are now finding blocks, not just the one, the hash hoppers, the one with the highest hash rate, and then we win. All right, that's excellent. Now we congratulate the users a little bit, and there are a lot of text here. We might want to split some of the kind of the thank you, great job, and now let's talk about how to split the rewards. We may, let me know if you think we should split this into a new screen or not. Now let's say we've earned 6.1 Bitcoin, but we need to find a good way to split this up. Talks about partial solutions, and the way that I found out that this works now is that there is a so-called minimum difficulty, and that is lower than the block difficulty. So it's easier to achieve that minimum difficulty. So a miner doesn't send like every hash to the pool. That would be a bit ridiculous, but they send these more difficult hashes. So it's harder. It's relatively hard to find, but it's easier to find, a lot easier to find than a block. And then a miner regularly reports to the pool, I found one with this easier difficulty. And then the pool validates it. And if it's valid, then they assign this miner one share. And at the end, when a block is found, they count all of the shares, and then the percentage of shares per miner, they get that percentage of the block rewards. Sounds a little bit more difficult, sounds a bit difficult, but it's actually fairly straightforward. So now we kind of replay this, and this can go a little bit faster. Main thing here is that we only show hash rate, blocks found, and partial solutions. Then, we go ahead, this starts ticking, then we see these numbers ticking up. So blocks found 60, but partial solutions 6,372. And then once it's over, we kind of reveal these numbers. And I think that's something that can happen one by one. If we reveal all of this stuff at once, it's a little bit much. And I can mock this up once we kind of decided that this logic is actually accurate. We want to go forward with this. So here now comes the little bit tricky part. So me as a user, I have 24.4% of our group hash rate, right? But I've only found 23.13% of all the blocks. I was just a little bit unlucky because finding blocks is really, really hard. And so I was just unlucky. So the hash hoppers, they have 36.81%, but they found 37.96% of the blocks. They were more lucky. So it's especially for when you have really small miners and the ones that are super powered, the smaller ones may just never find the blocks. If you just use that to split up rewards, it doesn't make sense. That's why the partial solutions come in. And if we look at the partial solution number, I had 24.4% of the partial solutions, or shares, whatever you want to call them, of our group. And that is very close to the hash rate. It's not identical. I made it a little bit off, but it's very, very close. And so we need to communicate to the user blocks found can be somewhat off, sometimes quite a bit off, but partial solution is more fair. And so I get 24.47% of the 6.1 Bitcoin, our pool found in total, and then that would be 1.49 Bitcoin. All right. Hopefully that all made sense. I do feel like this is pretty logical now, but we have to make sure that learners can understand this really well. So the trick here, as you've seen now, is when developing this, there's a bunch of logic there to consider. So, these are not all just random numbers. They're all based on this Google spreadsheet here. So I'll just go over that real quick. So everything starts with the user hash rate. I just made that number up, 43.95 to the power of 15. Now, the friend one has a relative hash rate, so they have 15% more hash rate than I do, which is this much. Friend 2 has 80% more than I do. Friend 3 has less, only 65% of what I do, right? So now we have ourselves and our friend's hash rate. Now, our total group has this hash rate. The Bitray has a relative hash rate of our good group of 92%. So 92% has to be less than 100%, so in the end we actually win over them. So before my three friends have switched to, after they switched to the good side, this here is the Bitray's pool rate. Afterwards, when the friends still mine 4 Bitray, it's this much. Then every friend has a luck. So that's the difference between the actual share percentage of the group versus how many blocks they found. So friend 1, if let's say they have 25% of the hash rate, they will only find 25% times 98%, so 2% less of the actual blocks. And that's what determines this math here, blocks found versus partial solutions found. That's where this luck variable comes in. Then in the simulation we have 1,000 blocks. I'm just randomly put this number in, 15 seconds. I don't think that affects very much. Render pixel width, this is this bar here at the top is 800 pixels wide. So sometimes I use that like here to, let's see, pool render pixel width. That's why, so I could realistically mock this up. Bitcoin reward, 6.1 Bitcoin, and partial solutions per block. That is probably not the best math way to do this. We can come up with something better, but that's basically, for every block I find this many solutions. Then here at the tabs at the bottom, solo, it's pretty much straightforward. All of these other tabs reference back to the variables for everything. So you can see user hash rate, bitrate hash rate, blocks mined at the end, percentage of the total blocks mined, nonce at the end. So I did the math here and then copy pasted this or transferred it into Figma. And here, this is for cooperative mining. These 75% here are not used, but these values here are used. Yeah, so hope all of that makes sense. But whoever implements this will probably be the foundation, this logic of the code that needs to go in. The other thing that I did not put in here, but I'd like to take a look at is this to the power of. So I kept it as now for that it's, so it's always like multiples of 3, right? Just like tera, exa, whatever, it's multiples of 3. So these numbers are the same. So it's 10 to the power 15, not 16, not 17, but it's always a multiple of 3. Something we could do here is have a toggle at the bottom that shows toggle units or switch units, switch to unit prefixes. And that could then, switch this to say tera hashes per second. And I don't know, would that just say tera nonces or whatnot? I don't really know how that works, or just tera, I don't know, jillions. But that's something that's still outstanding, but I think we can just discuss that separately. The main thing that I really just wanted to go over is the changes in the total logic of introducing this pool system and all the details around splitting the rewards. So I hope that made sense. Hope we're in a good place now, but feel free to leave your feedback.